Hello and welcome in today's video explaining the Ruqa'a script. In this video we are going to talk about the following. First we are going to talk about how to hold your pen and explaining the concepts on what does a cut mean, the calligraphy pen cut, this one that we have here. Then we are going to move on to explaining how different ways of holding the cut gives us different shapes, though we keep the same move as we can see here. Then we are going to talk about the concept of scaling. How do we scale our letters in calligraphy in general, either in English or in Arabic, because both languages have the same concepts behind them. After that we are going to take a look at letters Alef, Ba, including Ba, Ta, Tha, how they connect inside a word or at the end of a word. We will also have a look at the letter Ha and Kha and Jeem, including the two variations of those two letters and knowing which one we use for which case. After that we are going to see when the letter comes inside a word, how it changes depending on the letter that connects before it. After that we are going to move on to the letters Daal and Ra'a, including the Daal and Zain. So shall we start with it? The first thing we are going to talk about is the pen itself. So when you hold a pen, you have to make sure that you realize there are two edges of the pen. The first one is higher than the other one. So when you hold the pen, this will call A and this will call B. When you hold the pen, A always points upward like this, as you can see. You see, we never hold the pen this way. We always hold the pen in this way. Usually it's perpendicular or like pointing upwards. It's also more like, it makes sense when you hold the pen this way because the pen sort of rests on your arm. The second thing is to get your head around the idea of moving the pen. So for example, we usually do some strokes as a start, just to get our heads around the, let's say, the angle of the pen. So if we had a look here, we have several angles that we could hold the pen with. This one, and this one. We can divide this into an X and a Y. And if we were to move a straight line downward, or let's take a curvy line like this. So first we're going straight, then we're going out in a curve. So here we go down straight, then we go out the curve. Let's see what this shape will give us. Down straight, then out with a curve. Meanwhile this one will give us this shape, down straight and curve. So doing this we realize how the different angle we hold the pen with gives us different shapes. That's very important because some people think that they should hold the pen this way. No, we hold the pen in different angles depending on the script we are going to write. For Ruqa'a scripts, we are going to hold the pen with an angle that would give us both thick lines if we did this. So we basically do a Daal move, a Daal letter, and when we go down, then do another perpendicular line to it, it gives us thicknesses in both sides. You could stop the video and just put the pen on the video right here. Or you could look up Ruqa'a script and just put the pen on it, just like this, and you get the angle. Throughout the movement process, you do not change the angle. You keep the angle as it is, as you can see here. So that when you move the pen, it gives you the shapes, as we can see here. You should practice this several times. You know that you're doing it right. If this was close to this one, this should be smaller, but if they were equal, it's fine, and no worries about it. Next, we are going to talk about the scaling system. So, in calligraphy in general, we have some rules and ways of knowing how big a letter is. In Ruqa'a, we have to start with something called the dots. So you hold the pen with the 45 degrees and you go down to the right. Mind you, it is not the full thickness of the pen, it is 2/3 of it. So you have to stop before. It's more like a diamond shape rather than a square shape. So this dot has a height. This is like the scripting dot. If you had a ba or a ta or like a ba or a jeem or a kha, we use this to scale our letter. What do we mean by that? Is that if we had, using this pen, if we made 3 dots on top of each other, then we took these 3 dots and we moved straight downward up to this point. This gives us the letter Alef in Ruqa'a. So if I were to change the pen to a smaller size, let's take this one, which is 2mm. That one was 2 centimeters. If we got the 2mm and we took the same line, I have to zoom in on this one. So here we can write the exact same shape, but it will be in a smaller size. So here we've got an Alef with 2mm pen, and here we've got an Alef with 2 centimeters pen. That's the main thing about the scaling of a letter. It's basically the pen you use to write with is the same pen we scale our letters with. In English scripting, the difference is that the way you hold the pen would be like horizontal. So you get the same idea, but you get the height through the full thickness of the pen, not just the sort of angle of writing. So for example, for a scaling system in English calligraphy, this would be more than 3 points. Meanwhile, in Arabic calligraphy, it becomes 3 points. Hope these are clear. That's very quick notes. You need to know the different angles you hold the pen with. This is the angle we are going to hold the pen with for the Ruqa'a script. Finally, you need to memorize the scales and the sizes of the letters. So let's start with the letters, and you should, by the way, watch the previous video that I explain how to make a pen and to know what types of inks are good out there. With regards to paper, you should use glossy paper if you could find it. If you couldn't find it, it's fine, you could use paper just like this one, normal one. I think glossy paper comes a bit more expensive than this type of paper. So let's start with the letter Alef. First, you might want to draw yourself a nice straight line. You don't have to be particularly about it, just like this line. Then we are going to do our scale. So here we have 3 points of height. Then you do the Alef. Mind you, keep the same angle we talked about. Alef connects from the right. So when you connect the Alef, in Ruqa'a we write with a slight downward move. For example, Bismillah. You see how this scene is going downward, then we add the meme, then we go down. So this is the writing line. The whole script goes downward. So we write Allah, we go with the end of this letter, and we do the Alef, do the Lam, the other Lam, and if we were to look at this, the Ha comes touching right here. So as we can see that the whole script is moving downward on the line. We will talk about the detailed explanation of this later on when we learn more letters. So to connect the Alef, we go down, we stop, then we go vertically perpendicular to this thing. This is the correct way of doing it. The Alef in Ruqa'a doesn't come really straight, it comes slightly inclined to the left. So we do it again. Mind you, the angle is always the same, you don't change it. So practice this. Do like Alef, then a connected Alef, then another Alef, then another connected Alef. Just to get used to getting the Alef is parallel to each other with a nice distance in between. This is the letter Alef, connected and singular. Let's talk about the letter Ba. So basically we've got half a point, another point. So the first move would be a slight curvature. It's barely a move, by the way. You get a thick side here and a pointy edge here. So you do this. Then inside we have 3 points of width. So we go down and we rotate. Let's do it again with different colors just to make sure that we understand what we are doing here. So the red is the scale. 1, 2. This is the maximum height and this is the maximum drop that the letter will have. So the first move is easy because we know that we have to move from here to here, as you can see. Now we've got 3 points of width that we need to work this move around. So the second move is a curvature. It goes down straight, then it touches the line, then it rotates back. So straight down, touch here, then rotation, as we can see. Let's do it. You have to practice this more, like do tens of these to make it easier for you to remember the move. This is the first shape. There's another shape of the Ba where the first move is going up, the second move is the rotation. So you go up, then you go down. And it's the same size as this one, 3 points. By the way, the scaling system in the calligraphy, you don't make the dots like touch each other. In Ruqa'a they don't. In other scripts they do. To be fair, some people just do circles. But that's somehow an issue in the scaling systems, that you don't really have the exact size every time. Like it's something that you have to practice so that it feels right and the shape of the letter feels good. Lots of people I've taught, they were like, why this is a rubbish way of scaling letters, but because the dots do not touch each other. But well, that's how it is, and it works actually. All calligraphers in the world do it. So to remind you of the moves, so we've got two bats, one with a high start. This is the first move. Then you go about for the second move. The second move, as we can see here, if you were to color the area below it, you will find that the right side has more under it than the left side. So it's like a Nike logo. Nike logo is like this mark where the majority of the weight is pointing to the left. Again, we do not change the angle of the pen while moving, so we started with this one and we keep going down, then we rotate. It's the same angle, we do not change. For the finishing, you do not go back, you just stop up. You stop when the pen is pointing upward, because you do have a circular move, but the circular move does not go all the way around, doesn't close. So this is the two bats. We will move on to the letter Ha. For Ha we have some rules for that letter. First, when it comes by itself, Ha by itself is 2 points by 2 points. So it's a square shape that the moves here are 1, 2, and then we go down 3. So 1 and 2 are basically with the same angle we talked about here. We go up 1, then we go back 2. You need to give some space here. It has to be thin to give you the lovely shape. You don't go straight to the right. That's why we do the scale. Then you go back down with the third move. The third move extrudes. The height here is 3 points. To know how far you have to go down here. Then we go back with the fourth move, which also extrudes to the right and to the left. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's do it again. We've got 1, curvature. Then we've got 2, straighter. Keep in mind that here you think of the A edge and the B edge of the pen. So for the first move, you do put A like so. Here is A and here is B. When you continue writing, you put the B on the A here, as you can see. So this way you get this sharp edge here. To understand this, because sometimes people just close it and it just looks really bad when they do that. Next, the third move, which is basically keeping the same angle, adding a small rotation here, then going down. Now you have to focus inside to see that you've got a triangular shape inside the hat, or the Jeem of the hat. Here is a very special move that you don't go this. You stop and you give it a slight rotation, a very small curve. This small curve gives you a smooth transition on the right instead of a sharp edge. Finally, when you reach for the fourth move, you go with a slight curve upward, but at the end you sort of rotate the pen in your hand this way. So you see, when you rotate the pen, it closes the B side on A side, it closes the lower side on the upper side. This way you get this nice edge, and it is an important move that we will learn for other letters. So this is the ha by itself, which comes also as a kha and a jeem. When it connects, it depends on the letter that follows it, when it comes at the start of the letter. If it was followed by one of these letters, ra, ha, ya, or alif maqsoora. When we say ha, we mean ha, jeem, kha. When we say ya, we mean ya or alif maqsoora. Mim, or ta marbuta or ha. Ha or ta marbuta. So if the ha supersedes, or if any of these letters follow ha, it looks like this. So here you can see har or hajj. Hay, neighborhood. Ham, which means hot in some dialects, hot weather. Jiha, which means direction. So a jeem, a ha, ta marbuta. So with any of these letters we have to use this ha. For the other remaining letters we use the other shape. So this is basically the same shape as this one we learned here. There's no difference between it. The only difference is that you just have to think about the following letter. You could practice the ha and the jeem, by the way. Now you know both of them, how they look like. What if a ha or a jeem connected to a alef or any other letter? We have two moves. The first one, basically going straight, then a curvature, and the second one, which is a straight line. So let's do the first one and the second one. Here you will see that it is 2 points by 1.5, depending on the script. The main feature, or the main features of this ha or jeem or kha, is the following: this move and this move. You must have a nudge to the right and a dropping down here. If any of those two was missing, some people could think it's a sad. Sad in Ruqa'a is the same move, but you do this. So it's exactly the same move, but instead of starting from back, you just continue it. As we said, this comes connected, for example, with an alif or with a ba. Now, let's have a look at connecting more than one ba, now that we saw a ha and an alif. So let's try the word habib. So we start with a ha, we stop like 1 point after it. We've got a ba, a ya, and a ba, which we know that when you connect a ya, it changes into a nabira. Nabira is the small nudge that represents a letter in Arabic calligraphy or in Arabic scripts. There's a rule about the ba, the ya, the ta, the tha, the nun inside a word. All of these letters look like nabirat. So ba, ta, tha, ya, nun, For example, something like this. In order to distinguish a nabirat from a sin, we do this. 2 letters, we do them normally. You give a start of a ba, go up, then continue another ba. Or you do this ba. So this is the word bath, for example. Broadcast. If you had more than 2 letters, here's the rule. You either start with a flat, then go up, then go down here and continue. So this is bait. Or you would use the other move, which is going up and continuing from the middle here. As you can see, like, we have both of them are inclined, but this break we add distinguish the letter from a scene, and that's why we basically do it. So the word Habib, we do the straight line, then we go up, then we do a connection, then we do a ba. Now, with regards to the dots, 1 dot in Ruqa'a, 2 dots in Ruqa'a, 3 dots in Ruqa'a. It's very easy. The 1 dot is moving down while holding this angle. The 2 dots is moving to the right while holding the same angle. 3 dots is basically making a triangle, which is the same move as the ha here. So ha, ba, ya, ba. You leave a nice distance between the scripts and the dots. You don't stick them to the letter. And when you do the dots, you look for the letter and do it below the letter. If you had no space below the letter, you could go to the left. You don't do it to the right, you go to the left, because in Arabic we read from right to left. So for example, if we had the word Sahih, or let's say there was a Jeem here and another Jeem. So the Jeems are below the Jeems, the dots are below, and the yeah here is sort of in a mess, so you could just bring it down here. You don't have to, like, or Hajij. I think Hajij is the right explanation. So ha, Jeem, ya, Jeem. Pilgrims. The ya is here, it's fine, you could put it here. As you can see, nice balanced shape to them. But you don't, for example, put the dots here or stick them here. You don't do that. You give yourself a space. People can read your script. So these are the dots that we need to put in. You have to distinguish, because these dots are used in Ruqa'a and in other scripts, but you don't use them in Nasakh, for example. Habib is a nice example and a practice for you to do. You could also practice the word hajib, eyebrow, ha, alif. Now here, if you can see, this is the straight line. You give this line. Now when you start the other Jeem, it goes the same height, so Jeem ba. You see how the hajib you don't go below, like this ha ended up on the line. The other ha starts higher, as we can see. You don't keep going down, 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 down. You have to give yourself a nudge upward, like we did with Bismillah first. So practice hajib. By the way, this should be disconnected here. Don't connect it. Do you have to stop when you write Jeem and a ba? In my opinion, yes, because some people automatically do this move, which is wrong in Ruqa'a. You have to stop, go back, then come back. Ruqa'a is a very sharp script. By the way, we are doing the Arabian Ruqa'a. In the future, we might do a Turkish version of the Ruqa'a by the calligrapher Muhammad Izzat. There are some differences in both methods and both schools. After the Ha Jeem, Ha, we have the Daal and Ra. It's basically doing the Ba move. So the Ba was this letter. If you took the first part of it, it's a Daal. That's the nice thing about calligraphy, is that you take moves and you just combine them, and you get the letters that you want. For example, the Ha we just did, you could do a Sad with. So this is a Daal. It's basically 2 points by 1 point. That is the same thing. Meanwhile, the Ra, it looks like a banana, and it's a 2 point wide. With Ra, we have some moves to learn. So to do a Ra, it helps if you had a bigger pen, to be honest with you. You could start with the scale, of course. Just put 1 and 2. By the way, the points are like inclined because the Ra is sort of inclined, so you're measuring this with the one with the angle, not the vertical or the horizontal. So the points have to be sort of with an angle. So you start up here with the same angle we talked about. You go down. As we can see, we have a nice thickness to it. Then you start rotating the pen, right here. The rotation of the pen gives you the small triangle here that closes the letter. So when we do it properly, we go down, left, rotate and close. As we can see here. This way you get a lovely Ra that looks like a leaf. Now here's something that we keep in mind. The details in calligraphy are very intriguing, to be honest with you. For a start, we might not be able to see them, but with time we will notice them. In this script in particular, we have a very shallow start here, a very thin line. Here we have a thick and a straight, relatively straighter. Meanwhile here we have this pointing downward. It's like a leaf. The end, when we rotate the pen, the upper joined the lower with a nice curvy bend. Now this is a very sort of, let's say, it's very detailed, and you don't have to do it. You could simply just do this, by the way. If you had one of these pens, you could just creep it and it gives you the Ra. Lots of calligraphers just do this, by the way. So Ar-Rahman, the Lam Ra, they go down and they just do this. They scrape the pen and it gives you a Ra. But yeah, now you know how to make it. If we were to connect Daal and Ra, again we have certain rules. We can't connect them as we like. The difference between the Daal and the Ra is the following. They both connect from the right, of course. They don't connect from the left. In special cases they do. We look into those later. For the Daal, this is the connection. We go up, then we do a Ra. For the Ra, this is the connection, we just go down. So let's do it again. Here we've got, for example, bud, this is a ba and a ba, so these are bas. Bur, which means like wheat, and bud, which means must, la bud. The dal, the first move is going up. The second move is basically doing a ra down here. Bur is going down here and just doing a ra. You have to be careful not to mix these two. So here we can do the word hadid. So ha, there's a dal here, then a ya, and there's a dal here. So ha, dal, dal, and the dots for the deed. Mind you, we use this ha. Meanwhile, harir means silk. This means iron. Harir, ha, that also a ya and a ra. The ra just simply goes down. Harir, which means silk. You see the difference in the ha and the difference in the dal. This is for today's video. Make sure that you study all of these notes. Use a zoom back if you want to take a screenshot for it. We started with the normal ha, with the normal alif. We learned how to what's the meaning of these things that we see in books, the dots and the inclinations. We will talk about more stuff in the future, which are the sort of lines and circles. Because we do sometimes use half or like quarter of a point to measure heights. Again, some people use circles for like full, half or quarter of a thickness. The lines we use to govern our curvature. We will come to that in later stages. First you have to sort of, you could actually start with this page, do this move, this move, not this one, and do the alif. If you felt confident and you felt that it looks nice, you could then move on to doing these other letters. You have to memorize the following, the rules for the ba. By 2, 3 and more. You must not do 3 bas like this. It is wrong to do 3 bas going downward. Then you have the ha rule. It's important to memorize this. You shouldn't use the ha for the other letters. Now with regards to these letters, the one that comes with this shape, you can memorize this word. You could easily memorize the word rahima, ra, ha, ya, mim, ta marbuta. By the way, the ha comes like this, though it's a ya after it, because it's not an end ya, it's a middle ya. So you do the ya this way, because this is considered as a nabira. So ha with a nabira always comes this shape. So ra, we get ra and zain. Ha, we get ha, jeem, kha. Ya, we get ya and ya, alif maqsura. Mim is mim. Ta and ha and ha. So any of these letters coming after a ha, the ha changes its shape into this shape. We also talked about the dal and the ra. We have to memorize these two rules about them. With the dal we go up, with the ra we go straight. With regards to connecting the letters and words, try these few ones. So as a homework you could do the following words. You could also take a screenshot for them if you want to. Bab, let's write hijab. So you've got a ha followed by a Jeem, that's why we chose this shape. The Jeem in the middle looks like the second move here. So let's just defocus this, focus this better, yeah. So we start with a normal ha, this one, then we go down, then we stop. So now you would use the second move, so this is the first, use the second and the third to do the ha in the middle, just like this. The second, and you go back. So then you add an alif. Okay. The alif slightly goes to the left, as you can see here. And finally we do the ba. Let's use this ba. Hijab. You could also try hajar, which means a stone. Ha, Jeem, Ra. We could try had, which means a boundary, or ahad, which means Sunday. There you go. So try these words for a homework. Keep up practicing and try not to push things like quicker than they should be. Next few classes we are going to look into the remaining letters. Let me know if you prefer these long videos or short ones. Like and subscribe if you want to get a notification. Also, I think there's this bell that you have to sort of click on to get notifications whenever I post a video. Classes will be put in a certain playlist, so you could find Ruqa'a in this playlist. The other playlist you will find, I think I'll put a link to it. You will find Kufi. That one you don't need a pen for, you just use normal rulers and sort of engineering stuff to do with. You could try that one too if you want to. And yeah, if you haven't checked the previous video, the other one where I explain about the pen and the ink, you could go and watch that to have a better idea about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, like and subscribe if you like what you are watching here, and see you next time.